Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'm going to show you what is easily one of the most hunter builds that I played with. And this is actually my go-to build unless I'm playing hell mode bosses. This is what I use for survival, for stories, for incursions, basically for soloing, for everything else. So this setup is built entirely around fast ultimate generation, huge range damage, and non-stop pressure using two incredibly strong legendary bows. The core of the build revolves around the Skipping Stone bow and the Hurricane Hankyu. And when you combine these two weapons with ultimate gang stacking and power hunt and extra target chaining from our techniques, you end up with a hunter build that can absolutely delete waves of enemies while constantly having ultimate uptime. Now, this setup is aggressive, it's fast-paced, and it honestly just feels really amazing to play. You're constantly firing arrows, chaining headshots, spreading fire damage, and you're wiping groups before they can even reach your team. And the best part is that the build works extremely well in both solo play and team content because you bring utility, crowd control, revive potential, and massive burst damage all at the same time. Another good thing is because we're not using resupply and we are always scavenging the maps for ammo, you're always close to points that need to be defended, so it's useful in survival as well. So in this video, I'll break down the techniques, the gear choices, and how I actually play the build during combat so you can put everything together yourself. Let's get into it. So the main goal of this build is very simple. We want to generate our ultimate as fast as possible and then use it constantly. That's the entire playstyle. Everything in the build is designed around feeding ultimate energy through rapid range attacks, ricochet headshots, and non-stop pressure from both bows. The reason this works so well is because both of our legendary weapons contribute to ultimate gain in different ways. The Skipping Stone bow gives us ricochet headshots, meaning every accurate shot can hit multiple enemies at once, and meanwhile the Hurricane Hankyu fires insanely fast, letting us rapidly stack hits and build ultimate almost immediately during fights. Then, once the ultimate is ready, we massively amplify it through ultimate damage bonuses and the all-seeing eye technique so that we can wipe entire groups in seconds. And because we also run Empower Hunt, we can boost our range damage even further while getting insane ammo efficiency during the burst window. So the gameplay loop is basically this. You build ultimate quickly with rapid arrows and ricochet headshots, you pop Empower Hunt, you use your ultimate to clear huge sections of enemies, and you repeat over and over again. It's simple, but it's incredibly effective. So let's start with the techniques. First up is our class ability, and we're going with Empower Hunt. This is one of the biggest damage spikes in the entire build. When activated, it increases the damage and speed of your ranged weapons for a brief duration, and your projectiles also gain piercing, and there's a massive chance that arrows won't consume ammo. So this ability is incredible with both of the bows. With the Hankyu, it turns you into an absolute machine gun. Since the bow already fires at double speed, combining it with Empower Hunt lets you unload insane damage into elite enemies or bosses almost instantly. And because ammo consumption gets heavily reduced, you can fire non-stop during the duration. I also like pairing Empower Hunt directly before using my ultimate because it lets you soften up entire groups first while building even more momentum. This ability should basically be used whenever it's up. For perk number 1, we have 15% class ability cooldown reduction, and this is pretty straightforward. Empower Hunt is one of the strongest parts of the build, so lowering the cooldown means more damage uptime, more ammo efficiency, and more opportunities to rapidly generate ultimate energy. So the faster we get this ability back, the smoother the entire build feels. For perk number 2, we have Point Blank. And this perk is honestly one of the reasons the build feels so consistent. With Point Blank, body shots have a chance to inflict headshot damage. And this synergizes perfectly with both legendary bows. With the Skipping Stone bow, those headshots proc and they can trigger the ricochet effect, meaning the body shots can suddenly start bouncing into nearby enemies as well. And then with the Hurricane Hankyu firing so fast, you end up triggering this effect constantly during close range fights. So even if you aren't landing perfect shots every single time, this build still pumps out huge damage. It adds a ton of consistency. For the final perk, we run All Seeing Eye because this causes your ultimate to target 2 additional enemies. And honestly, this is kind of mandatory for the build. Since we're generating ultimate energy so quickly, we want every single ultimate activation to have maximum value. Adding extra targets massively increases wave clear potential, and it lets you completely destroy grouped enemies. When combined with the ultimate damage bonuses we're stacking on gear, this becomes incredibly strong. Now for our gear. On the katana, we are running melee damage, we're running ultimate damage, and we're running poison blade. Now, realistically, we are barely using melee combat in this build unless something goes wrong or enemies get too close. The katana is mainly here for passive bonuses. Ultimate damage is the important part because again, we're stacking as much ultimate scaling as possible. Poison blade is mostly utility and extra pressure during emergencies. For the Yari and the Kusarigama, we are running melee damage and ultimate gain. And honestly, the perk slot on these weapons is flexible. You can run pretty much whatever you want because these are not core combat tools for this build. They mainly exist to give us passive stat bonuses. The important thing here is ultimate gain. That stat is absolutely critical because the faster we charge our ultimate, the stronger the entire build becomes. Now let's talk about the first legendary, the Skipping Stone Bow. This thing is amazing. Its legendary effect is that it causes headshots to ricochet into a second nearby target automatically. And because we're stacking range headshot damage, plus the body shot perk that can trigger headshot damage, this bow ends up clearing groups extremely efficiently. For stats, I run range headshot damage, ultimate gain, and disarm arrows. The headshot damage scales perfectly with the ricochet effect. Ultimate gain obviously feeds the core gameplay loop, and disarm arrows are fantastic utility because disabling dangerous enemies during harder encounters can save entire runs. This bow is excellent for picking apart groups safely while rapidly building ultimate. Next up is the Hurricane Hankyu. This bow is completely different from the Skipping Stone bow, but together they work incredibly well. The legendary effect causes it to fire at double speed, but you cannot aim it traditionally. Its arrows also inflict maim, making enemies briefly vulnerable to melee attacks. Now, even though we are not really a melee focused build, the rapid fire speed alone makes this weapon incredible. It builds ultimate energy insanely fast, and when you combine it with Empower Hunt, the damage output becomes ridiculous. For stats, I run Hankyu damage, ultimate gain, and fire arrows. Fire arrows are especially useful against tougher enemies because the burn damage adds constant pressure over time. And since we are already attacked so rapidly, applying fire consistently is very easy. So this is usually the bow that I pull out during burst damage situations or when elite enemies need to die quickly. For the charm, we are using Shadow's Bite, and this is another really important piece of the setup. The stats I run are Status Effect Damage, Ultimate Gain, and Scavenger. Status Effects damage boost your entire fire arrow significantly, and this gives us stronger burn damage against tankier enemies. Ultimate Gain continues feeding the main gameplay loop, and then Scavenger is honestly mandatory here because we are not running resupply. Since this build burns through arrows constantly, you absolutely need strong ammo economy to sustain fights. Scavenger helps keep the build flowing smoothly. Finally, we have the Smoke Bomb, and this tool is incredibly useful for survivability and for utility. The stats I run are Ghost Tool cooldown reduction, ultimate gain, and armory. Cooldown reduction lets us use the smoke bomb more frequently. Ultimate gain continues stacking into the build, and armory is amazing because every time you use the smoke bomb you get ammo pickups. So this helps solve ammo issues while also giving you emergency utility during dangerous situations. Smoke bombs are amazing for reviving teammates, escaping pressure, resetting fights, or basically just repositioning. And because this build is heavily range focused, having a reliable panic button is extremely valuable. So when it comes to actually playing the build, the gameplay loop is very aggressive. You constantly want to stay active and keep building momentum. You want to use the skipping stone bow to safely chain ricochet damage into groups while farming ultimate. And then when stronger enemies appear, you activate Empower Hunt and swap to your Hurricane Hankyu for burst damage. The rapid fire speed combined with fire arrows absolutely melts elites. As soon as your ultimate is ready, use it aggressively. Don't sit on it too long. This build generates ultimate energy quickly, so you want to constantly cycle through ultimates during fights. Smoke bombs should be used proactively as well. If ammo gets low, drop a smoke bomb for armory pickups. If teammates go down, smoke gives you safe revives. And if enemies overwhelm you, smoke lets you completely reset positioning. Once you get comfortable rotating between both bows and timing Empower Hunt properly, the build becomes incredibly smooth. So overall, this is easily my favorite hunter build in Yotei Legends. It has amazing ultimate uptime, huge range pressure, strong utility, and some really satisfying gameplay thanks to the synergy between the both of the legendaries. So if you enjoy fast-paced range builds where you're constantly firing arrows and wiping entire waves with ultimates, you're probably going to love this setup. This is the closest setup that I found to what used to be the Tsushima Hunter. Anyway, try it out for yourself and tweak some of these secondary perks if you want to experiment a little bit, but the core concept of stacking ultimate gain and abusing these two legendary bows feels incredibly strong. And that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content and you want to support the channel, there are a few ways that you can help out. First, drop a like on the video and share it with your friends, family, or anyone you think would enjoy it. It really helps the channel grow. Second, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you never miss a future video. And third, if you would like to support me directly, you can do so at allbashgaming.com. In there, you can buy me a coffee, and now you can also rep the channel with your own merch. You can grab your Loot Goblin t-shirt or the classic "It's not a glitch, it's a tech" t-shirt over on my shop. All the links you need are in the description. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. See you in the next one.